right, we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's jump right into it. Testing 1, 2, 3. Everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. Sitting in front of you, there are 2 small cups of 2 different shades of green liquid. Don't touch those just yet, or you will be shocked if you do. Okay. And one thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get everyone access to some ice water. So when it comes time to taste those, which is going to be shortly, there are some bottles of water that are floating around on the. Please, if you open those, but don't drink out of them if you can help it. We're going to get some of those. We're going to use some of those to dilute what are in front of you, neat samples of absinthe. Well, first of all, my name is Ted Bro, Theodore Antoine Bro, actually, from New Orleans. Who's been there? Great, fantastic. You might have noticed there's a place on Bourbon Street called the Old Absinthe House, right? Okay, and it's been there since 1874, and I'm a native New Orleanian, and that's one of the things that got me interested in absinthe back in early 1994. So that makes it, what, about 31 years now? Yeah, it's been a while. And just a little bit of my background, in 2000, I became the first person to actually analyze samples of antique absinthe using modern science, okay? And I co-authored published scientific studies published in peer-reviewed journals on the composition of vintage absinthe. And basically, we used that to get the U.S. had a ban on absinthe from 1912 until we got it lifted on March 5th, 2007, which is henceforth known as Absinthe Day. I also had the dubious honor of being the last person in France to be charged and fined under the original absinthe ban of 1915. I had to pay 4,500 euros to stay out of jail, and we eventually got that fixed. So I am kind of like a criminal. Yeah, I guess. All right, so let's jump right into it. And first of all, I want to welcome my lovely cohort, my colleague, my good friend, Darian Everding. She's going to jump in with the mixology portion. She definitely knows a bit about that. Okay, let's get on it. Basically, are you on the road? It starts off simple enough as plain lemonade. Then you want to fancy it with some cherries, and you add some red wine, and claret, right? And then you move on to beer, small schooner, and then cocktails, highball, and then whiskey, a hooker, brandy, a pony, and then a horn, and then an absinthe, and then you end up here. So, let's talk about absinthe. Okay, first of all, let me ask you something before I jump into this. Who here can tell me 2 botanicals that you find in every classic gin recipe? And coriander. Juniper and coriander. You will find those 2 in every classic gin. How about absinthe? And what is wormwood? You know what wormwood is? Wormwood is a term that's like grape. If someone hands you a bottle of wine and says, you're going to love this wine, it's made with grape. That's what wormwood is, because there's several hundred different species of it. But there is only one, Artemisia absinthium, aka grand wormwood. This is known since antiquity as a medicinal plant. You're going to ask me, what medicinal virtues does it have? It is a stimulant to the digestive system and a stimulant to the nervous system. The thing about it, though, is it's also horrendously bitter. And I'm going to take the sample, which you can open up, and I'm going to pass it around. We'll start here and just pass it around and go down, whatever. Because a lot of people have never actually seen it. I hauled that back from our farm in France. And the thing is, you can clearly see that it was used for medicines, like here, Artemisia absinthium, aka absinthe. Okay, in France they call the plant absinthe. And basically, all the way back I can find as far as Nicholas Culpeper's A Complete Herbal, 1653, which was interesting because this was a book that was a botanical medicine book that was interesting because it was published in English, not Latin. And that meant that commoners could read it, which of course doctors hated that. But in that book, it talks about distilling absinthe with anise seeds, right? So I know that the roots of absinthe goes at least as far back as that, probably a lot further. Just like we talked about juniper and coriander, the basis of any gin. The basis of any traditional absinthe includes what we refer to as the holy trinity of absinthe. This is Grand Absinthe. This is green anise, Pimpinella, Pimpinella officinalis. Sweet fennel, Feniculum vulgare. Petite absinthe, which is a lesser, a less bitter, a different type of wormwood that's used traditionally a lot in Italian vermouth. Here's one, lemon balm. Another one, hyssop, which is a bit like lavender, alpine plant. And the thing is, when you distill anything, what color is it? Clear. But absinthe is traditionally what? Like these two small plastic cups in front of you. It's green. Where does that come from? You put some green dye in it? Well, unfortunately, there's some producers that do. But traditionally, these plants at the bottom, and many possible others, once you make that clear distillate, you take botanicals that are softer in flavor, that can get lost in a distillation of powerful plants, okay? And what you do is you make an infusion, and that gives absinthe extra flavor and added color. And that is the basis of any traditional absinthe. Okay, well, the thing is, if you look at adverts for Angostura bitters, Fernet Branca, Peychaud's bitters, they are all advertised as what? From turn of the century. Yes, yeah, that's exactly right. They're all advertised in those old ads as medicines. Okay, looked at a 19th century ad for Fernet Branca. It keeps talking about dyspepsia, stomachache. Absinthe was originally marketed as a medicine. And the French military, in all its wisdom, issued rations of absinthe to its soldiers in North Africa. This graphic makes fun of the absinthe military, absinthe bottle for a cannon, because it was believed that when they were in Algeria, if you found some water in the field and it was not clean enough to drink, you could add some absinthe to it, and that would make it hygienic and clean enough to drink and prevent you from getting sick. Well, that's a great philosophy, except French soldiers soon found that instead of adding a little absinthe to water, it was a lot more fun to add a little water to absinthe. And when they went back to France, they brought that thirst for absinthe back with them, and absinthe became very, very popular. In fact, there's a town in France on the Swiss border called Pontarlier. The population in 1900 was about 10,000. The population today is about 10,000. The difference is in 1900, there were 21 absinthe distilleries in that one. Quite popular. And the thing is, that popularity spread when those French soldiers came back to France. And if you visited the cafes, you know, before Instagram and Facebook, when being social meant you had to actually go talk to people, people would knock off at 5 o'clock, hit the cafes for the green hour, all right? Which was basically happy hour where everyone can feel great about themselves because they're taking their medicine. Bitters were the panacea of the 19th century. It was believed that bitter botanicals, if you take them every day, it will help prevent you from getting sick, from illnesses like scrofula. Does anyone even know what that is? Yeah, the reason why you don't know what it is because basically it's something that just plain hygiene it's no longer a thing. But people believe that. And this is an American journalist who visited the cafe culture of Paris and sketched these distinguished gentlemen. It says, who sit at the little marble tables, drink absinthe, and are invariably decorated. But no, it wasn't just man's culture. Pipe-smoking dog at the end of a hard day likes a glass of absinthe. And here we have the art of making an absinthe. So the thing is, if you went to a bistro or a cafe in Paris in the 1890s and you ordered an absinthe, you got a glass with a shot in it, just like you have in front of you. It was always a concentrate, and it was always meant to be prepared by the patron the way that they liked it. In this little postcard series, we have this woman. She's got a shot of absinthe in the glass. Absinthe was never a liqueur. What is, not liquor, liqueur. What is the difference?
Sugar.
Correct. And she's got glass with an absinthe spoon, which you may have seen. Here's an antique one. Absolutely useless for just about anything except perching a sugar cube on top of a glass of absinthe, if you have a sweet tooth. She adds ice water to it. The art of making an absinthe. And then it becomes nice and cloudy. And voila. And you can see the date here. It says at the bottom, 1906. Yeah. So a little series of postcards. This is what used to send someone a postcard. You send them each one in the series until the whole story is complete. And then we have the male point of view, l'apéritif.
Oh my God, he's already started.
Oh yeah, he's already started.
Yeah.
And then we get to this point. It says it's so smooth and delicious. And at this precise moment, my heart is filled with joy. And then we get to the philosophical stage.
With the cigarette.
Yeah, yeah. And then we end up here. So, okay. So basically, oh, well, you gotta love these old adverts. This is back when adverts had class. These are huge posters. You'd see the original. These were huge posters that were put up on the sides of buildings. And usually showing women having a great time with a bottle of absinthe, like this one. Absinthe Ducros Feast, triple rectification. Oh yeah, it was probably rubbish. Absinthe Parisienne, or the Renaissance doctor saying it's okay, and there's a label on the bottle, santé, healthy. Good stuff. I have the original of this one. It's fantastic. It's my cute sin. C'est mon péché mignon. It's my cute sin. Yeah. And yeah, really beautiful art. Yeah, love these old adverts. Absinthe was just, it was such a beautiful thing. It was seen as a symbol of France and decadent bohemian culture of Paris, right? And so many of the artists and poets painted absinthe, talked about it, like Degas. He spent about 6 months in New Orleans with an extended family. Oscar Wilde equipped with what difference is there between a glass of absinthe and a sunset. Pablo Picasso wasn't an absinthe drinker, but he painted many cafe scenes of people drinking absinthe. French poet Paul Verlaine was always so pissed on absinthe like he is here. I don't know how he wrote anything. And then you had Van Gogh, who is Gauguin, who was Van Gogh's flatmate. So that was an interesting household, I'm sure. And Toulouse-Lautrec, he was quite a character. He used to hit the cabarets, and he had this hollow walking stick that he would fill with absinthe.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this is regarded as the painting that kicked off the Impressionist era. This is Edward Manet. And did he paint like a religious or neoclassical sort of, or a landscape? No, no, no. He painted an abomination. This was a guy who used to hang out at the Louvre and beg for change. So he was a beggar, and people recognized this in the painting. And he's sitting there in tattered clothes, leg kicked out, got a bottle on the ground, and what's in this glass of shimmering, cloudy, green liquid, unmistakably absinthe. They're like, oh, this is such an abomination. How could you paint such a thing? They would not show this painting at the salon that year. Needless to say, it's worth millions now. But yes, terrible, an abomination. As was this Degas painting, which is painting has got his friend, fellow artist, Marcelin Desbutin. Looks like he's smoking a pipe, drinking coffee. And everyone recognized French actress Ellen Andre sitting at the cafe table, marble table, in a stupor with the glass of cloudy green liquid in front of her. Boy, did she catch hell for being a model for this painting. Czech artist Victor Oliva, studying in Paris. Absinthe drinker, the influence of absinthe here. Or as Ernest Hemingway said, the tongue-numbing, idea-changing liquid alchemy. And speaking of, okay, so the large cup in front of you is, that's been sitting there. That, I haven't tasted it. I hope it came out okay. That is a lucid mule. So basically think Moscow mule, except you would substitute lucid absinthe, 1 ounce, in a full cocktail, which is 1 ounce of lucid absinthe. That's slightly more alcohol than an ounce and a half of 80 proof vodka with lemon juice and ginger beer. How did it turn out?
It looks like it could use a stir.
What's that? It came out okay?
Yeah.
Whew, good. Okay. We had okay, good.
I think that's a drink in the summer, just putting that out there now. It's so good.
Okay. And what we're going to do is move through here. You might recognize this. This is a 1900 photo of the old Absinthe House in New Orleans. If you've been there, you've seen it, you notice it looks just as bad today. And if you were to go inside way back when, You see that? It says absinthe rum. And what's interesting about this old photo is on the bar, I see these green and white marble fountains. And I think that those were actually water fountains that were taken from the old French Opera House when it was renovated, which was right around the time that this opened. But what's interesting about those old fountains is that, and they're still there today. In fact, they've been refurbished and they're functional now, again. It's the only surviving evidence of absinthe being served in the European way in the US. Because American culture was really, cocktails were gaining a lot of steam at that point. And absinthe was used as a cocktail ingredient. Anybody ever been to Yakima, Washington? Do you know where that is?
Yep.
Oh, you've been there, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So back in the 19th century, it's like an old logging town. This old newspaper from 1890 is really interesting because absinthe was there. It was everywhere. Love this old anecdote. Pour a few drops of absinthe on my fingers. He rubs it to his mustache, tells the bartender, I'm going to call on some ladies and want to take the whiskey odor away. Interesting use for absinthe. Okay, so one of the things we're going to do, that small cup in front of you that has a lighter shade of liquid is lucid absinthe. It's 124 proof. And what we need to do is we need to pour that into the empty cup in front of you, or half of it if you just want to take just a taste. And you need to add just enough ice water to that to make it completely cloudy. You don't want to douse it with a huge slug, just enough until it's completely cloudy, and then try it.
There's some here.
And lucid absinthe is an example of a typical French absinthe at the turn of the century, distilled true to tradition. Smells kind of perfumey, goes down pretty easily with ice water, yes? And it tastes slightly sweet, but that's an illusion. That's all the botanicals. It's completely dry. There's not a grain of sugar in it. So if you went to a bistro in, what's that?
Beet sugar.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's right. Because in Europe, grain neutral spirit is a default here because basically we have all these fields of corn everywhere and it all comes from distilled corn. That's not the case in Europe. The cleanest commercial spirit you can buy in Europe is beet neutral spirit, which looks really strange to Americans. It comes from sugar beets. So everybody's heard all this, all the problems associated with absinthe. Where did it all go wrong? There's a French doctor, Dr. Magnan, and basically he noted that people that were showing up with the sanitariums, a lot of them confessed to be absinthe drinkers. So he came up with these theories that absinthe caused like birth defects and epilepsy and insanity and all this stuff, and it's a lot of rubbish science, but it's pretty interesting. And he came up with these animal experiments to demonstrate that absinthe is poisonous, like this one, in which a guinea pig is injected with the equivalent of 200 glasses of absinthe to show that. Yeah. And then basically it said that wormwood is a poison, yeah. So it was said that, the thing is one ingredient that you find in absinthe, you don't find in much of anything else, well, except for maybe chartreuse, is Artemisia absinthium. So, there was this whole thing, well, this is poisonous. And basically, this is when a big smear campaign started gaining steam. And right around that time, and I know we had some people here that are into wine, and there was a period in the late 1870s, 1880s in Europe, period of phylloxera. Does everybody know what that is? Well, yeah, phylloxera wiped out a lot of the vineyards in France. So the thing is, if you spend time in France, especially rural France, wine is it's not really alcohol. It's just something you drink when you're eating, really. I mean, and the thing is, so when phylloxera hit, and people, wine suddenly, commoners couldn't drink so much wine because the price went way up. Well, absinthe sort of supplanted that as a national drink. And so the wine industry was allied with the unlikely bedfellow of the Temperance League that wanted to ban all, right. But wine's not really alcohol, you see. So, and then you see artwork that looks like this. And my personal favorite,
Oh my gosh.
I've seen.
This is going on display in Paris.
I've seen the original of this. It's fantastic. I wish I owned it. Yeah. And then there was this piece of rubbish. It was like a New York Times bestseller. It was like Victorian era pulp fiction, Wormwood, a drama of Paris. Basically, character is an absinthe drinker that creates problems. Life goes to ruin. It's that sort of thing. It's rubbish. You can still find like original copies. Like this is what, 1890. You can still find original English copies and like for like $20 on eBay. Yeah.
I'm reading it right now. It's thrilling.
Thrilling rubbish. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the phylloxera thing. So anyway, so you had this whole big movement, smear campaign. It was funded for economic reasons mostly. Said that absinthe was poisonous. And the weird thing about that time was, you know, anytime something becomes controversial, like the more controversial absinthe became, the more popular it became. Imagine that. Human nature hasn't changed much, has it? Not at all. And then back in those days, you had such fine products that anyone could buy. Cocaine tooth drops, very effective. You know Bayer aspirin, but have you ever heard of Bayer heroin? It was much more effective for headaches. And I love this. One night cough syrup. One night cough syrup. The ingredients are alcohol.
I love how we're all like, oh no, not the chloroform. Like,
all right. So you can see that all these wholesome products anyone could buy, but absinthe, oh my gosh, stay away from that stuff. Is terrible. It'll ruin your life.
It's just a like a
Grony, right. And this, is there anybody know what Van Mariani was? You know what it was? Tell us.
It's the only red wine laced with cocaine.
Yes. And it was endorsed by His Holiness the Pope because it reinvigorates you. Those late night springs. Van Mariani was actually an inspiration for Coca-Cola, which Pemberton developed right here in Georgia to be a temperance Van Mariani. How about that? Coca-Cola. Yeah, cocaine and yeah, coca leaf and cola nut. Cocaine and caffeine and sugar. What more could you want? Okay, so basically it was this huge smear campaign. It raged on for decades, and basically absinthe just became more and more popular. It was exported everywhere, and it was. The thing is I'm going to conservatively estimate that 95% of the world's absinthe, it's probably higher. I'm going to say 95% of the world's absinthe came from Switzerland and France. And after a heinous, well-publicized murder that was absinthe was unfairly blamed for it, Switzerland passed a ban on absinthe in 1910. The U.S. banned it proactively in 1912. The commentary was, we're all aware of this green curse of France. We know it's becoming very popular here, and we want to get ahead of it. And then France passed a ban in 1914, right around the beginning of the First World War. Yes. So, that's when absinthe virtually disappears from the market, is when a lot of the myths and all this stuff about absinthe pops up. That's really not rooted in anything credible. And in 2000, when I began studying vintage absinthe, being a research scientist and fairly well versed in analytical chemistry, I wanted to know. By that time, I'd accumulated some of the top brands of the 19th century. I drew samples from all of them, and I wanted to know what exactly it was that was causing all the problems. You know what I found? Nothing. You could take those same bottles, put them on the shelf, sell them legally today. And that is part of the ammunition that we use with my partner Jared Gerfine here. And we went to the U.S. government and basically said there's really no reason to ban absinthe. And that was a spirited conversation. Yeah, and the thing is, the way it turned out was their big problem. They didn't even argue with the science and said, yeah, we know it's not a problem.
They shot themselves in the foot.
Huh?
They shot themselves in the foot.
Well, we knew that legally we had the upper hand in the whole argument. But what they were concerned about is perception. Because by that time, I was disgusted with all this rubbish that was appearing in Europe. All this flavored vodka with green dye with a label that says, warning, may cause hallucination. And I own the top brands in the 19th century, and I couldn't buy anything like it. So that disgusted me, but it inspired me. And that's what inspired me to involve myself, yes, in the second coming. And there's one of my antique bottles sitting on top of the gas chromatograph, the mass spectrometer just right next to it. And this is what we use to prove that there's really nothing wrong. So long, you might be aware that in the mid-1700s, there was a big problem in London called the gin craze. And gin was given a nickname, Mother's Ruin. Is gin really that bad? Not if it's made properly. Same exact thing happened with absinthe in France a century or so later. Same exact thing. No regulation, profiteering, absolutely buyer beware, you don't know what you're getting. And that's well documented in the literature. The French were very brand conscious when buying absinthe, at least those who could afford to be. See, therein lies the problem. Because it's the poor alcoholics that were buying the cheap stuff. And the problems that they were having there, none of those problems were happening here. Why? Because the cheap stuff wasn't being exported. All right. One of the studies talking about. And unlike something like bourbon whiskey or distilled gin, there is no legal definition of absinthe today. There's one country that has a legal definition of absinthe, that's Switzerland. To be called absinthe in Switzerland, it has to be distilled directly from the plants, cannot contain sugar, the default flavor must be anise, it must cloud when water is added, and it cannot contain fake colors. It's a good definition, I like it.
What's the part of it that, like, you know, must cloud when water's added? Can you explain, like, I mean, maybe you're going to, maybe I'm speaking ahead of time, but what's
No, go ahead.
exactly, like, the process of, I know it's a luge, like, that's the word we
Oh, why does it happen?
Yeah, why does it happen? How do you get that to happen?
Okay, well, that cup of light green absinthe that you had in front of you, lucid absinthe, is 124 proof. Why does it have to be made so strong? It's because it's so concentrated with botanicals, the alcohol has to be kept high to keep it in solution. When it comes out of solution, it's unstable. And it's not soluble in water. So when you add ice water to it, it makes it unstable, it comes out of solution, you get this nice perfume, and it tastes, you can drink it.
Is that similar to the way that, like, chill filtration is with whiskey, where if you like chill it, then it gets all like the floccules and gets all like weird? So similar
Yes.
concept, but not the same science?
Similar concept,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yeah. Good question, thank you.
I'm sorry, I have one.
Sure.
Where did you say the definition was?
Switzerland. Yeah, nowhere else, like in the US, you can piss in a bottle, call it absinthe, there's nothing stopping it.
Ted, can I ask you a follow-up question on this? Is it specifically menthol, or are there other compounds?
There are others.
that fall out?
There are others. For example, depending upon what you use to make gin, you can have a gin that clouds.
Sure.
So finding of gin, it's the same thing, but predominantly, yes, alcohol, predominantly. So when I basically reverse engineered these antique absinthes, I had all this information, and I was like, wow, you know, I could publish a really cool book, which eventually I did.
It's a good book. It's a good book.
Thank you. And if you want a signed copy, there's like 25 bucks on Amazon. If you want a signed copy, I'll sell you one for 25 bucks. Come talk to me later. But anyway, I had all this information, and I decided that no, I'm not going to publish a book. I want to recreate these old absinthes because I've got nothing else that's like them. I can't buy them. I found this distillery in France. And if this looks like the Eiffel Tower, that's not an accident because the architect of this place was Gustave Eiffel. This is the Combier Distillery. It was founded in 1834. This room was created in the 1880s, and all the original absinthe distilling equipment is there and present. It's functional. And this distillery distilled absinthe into the band. And then when I made a deal with them back in late 2003, I was the first person to distill absinthe using these original stills since the band. And what you have in front of you, and like that lucid, that's where that comes from the original 19th century stills. And if you want to go to the next, a very different, darker green. This is a bit of a different product, and I don't have a bottle here to show you. Yeah, where'd they go?
They took them in the back.
Oh, that back.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the second one you have, to show you a contrast, that is the first absinthe I began distilling in France in 2004. That is Jade Nouvelle Orléans, named after my hometown. Basically, if I were a distiller in the 19th century, this is what I would have done. And it is 136 proof. Now, the base spirit on this is a 19th century style French eau de vie de vin that is custom made for me in Cognac. So you want to add ice water to this. I see some people like, if you want to take, yeah, you're tasting a little bit neat. It's pretty strong stuff.
Is that base and where it is?
Yes, the base spirit is a 19th century style eau de vie de vin. So it's a French brandy, unaged, 19th century style. If you would have bought commercial alcohol in France in the late 19th century, the best that you could find, this is what it would be. All the botanicals are privately grown. They're all sourced from the original regions where those botanicals were grown to service. The best ones were grown to service the absinthe industry in the 19th century. It's got about 3 years of age on it. It's really aged like Solera style. Every drop's distilled by me in the original stills. It's a little different, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jade Nouvelle Orléans. Oh, here you go. All the way on the right. Thank you. I like the original packaging. You need a corkscrew to open these bottles, just like the originals. Yeah. Yes.
Did you say daily home? I can't hear the last part of the name.
Oh, Nouvelle Orléans.
So like New Orleans.
Yeah. Nouvelle Orleans, the French name for New Orleans is what it is.
Is it spelled the same way? Orleans? O-R-L-E-A-N?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you talk about where you source that over the other side?
It's a blend, but it's got a lot of Chenin Blanc.
Okay. So a lot of that.
Yeah, bit of water. And the thing is that was a common brandy grade back then for commercial alcohol.
Chandler, you got a question?
68%.
68%, 136 proof. Okay. All right. And I'm about to turn this over to you, I think. Yep. There's yours truly, sweating in the distillery. Yeah. Very yeah, there's the romance right there. You visit the distillery when I'm there, you make that mistake, you're gonna work. That's my rule.
So tell me your schedule then.
Yeah.
I'll show you how to clean a still. It's a load of fun. Gin distillers cannot wrap their heads around the volume of botanicals that goes into absinthe. It's medicine, remember? So those two taste quite different, huh? But it shows you how different. It's like, they're like two different wines. I mean, it's like you've got a Gamay versus like a Pinot Noir. I mean, that's the thing. There was a lot of variety within the category. Okay, voila. And yeah, you want to handle? Want to jump in?
I'm sure you want more.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I love that you just had two absinthes side by side that are wildly different. But how many recipes do you read that say just absinthe and they don't specify anything about it? That's part of my inspiration and love of why I fell in love with absinthe. Is it is so much more of a dimensional category than we have a lot of like open information about and play with. So what I've worked on in my teeny tiny little queer British pub in the middle of Iowa is building out an absinthe program, and it's really fucking popular, which I'm very, very proud of, because people are curious, they're interested. So traditional ways of service include a fountain like this gorgeous one right here. Talked a little bit about that. You want to show off your glass?
Yeah, well, the thing is, like I said, if you ordered an absinthe in France, you got a glass with a shot in it. And some of the glasses, I think I have an antique one in here floating around as well. Here's one though. Some of them were made with uranium glass. Yeah. Yeah, pretty cool, eh? I like to show that. And many of you have seen these, an absinthe fountain. which basically is just, it is a fancy ice water dispenser, because that's really what it is. And the thing is, I have an original at home. There are not many originals that survived because they were all operated by patrons. So, this is a reproduction which looks spectacular like an original. But the thing about it, you know, the thing this was very cool. If you went to like a very posh bistro, you'd see like these on the table, and it was nice because you could set the spigot to drip ice water, and it was hands-free. So if after you had a few, you didn't have to try to manipulate a carafe. So, tools of the trade. Carry on, please.
Yeah. So that's definitely what guests expect to see, but I'm not gonna go spend $300 on a fountain for people to potentially break and then replace. So as we look at, oh, did I do the right thing? No? Technology challenge. There we go. Oh, some other examples of the classic glasses, which are gorgeous. You can find reproductions of these glasses, Maison and Absinthe. Fabulous, fabulous.
Here's an original.
The truth is beautiful.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah. Love these glasses though, and reproductions are great as well because they have great, like, there's an ounce mark in there. You just pour it and you send it on the way. More examples of different spoons. I don't offer sugar when I serve absinthe. If the guest asks for it, it's like straws. If they want it, I'll give it to you, but you gotta ask for it. This is a period glass, right?
Yeah, Bruyere.
Yeah. I was really inspired by this. This is kind of clever. It's kind of cool. It's your water dilution service all in one. But like I said, I run a little tiny British pub that isn't going to spend the $35 on that Gruyere piece on top. So I got really creative with Korean sauce cups, Korean barbecue sauce cups. You drill a 16th inch hole in the center of it, and it will do the same damn thing, and they stack really, really nice. I love this service for guests because you give them that lushing experience, the really pretty, beautiful thing that they get to backlight. That's actually me serving that at the bar, or actually letting the guests serve themselves at the pub. Did I get one in here?
It's the down arrow.
That's what I'm hitting. Oh, it's trying to do the video. So people love this shit. They absolutely love it. And it's bringing that mysticism, that mystique, that beauty back into absinthe service that also doesn't burden us with a 15-minute lecture of how are you going to do this for your guests. I think that's super fun. Friends don't let friends burn absinthe. That is not traditional. That is not something that we want to do, one, for our own safety. But two, once the guest finds out, oh, you've just burnt off all of my alcohol, they don't want it either. That came to us from the Czech Republic in the 90s-ish.
Yep.
It's not what we need to do. Some bars still choose to do it. I'm not gonna completely hate on everybody who chooses to do that. I think we can do a little bit better. Can you talk a little bit about cocktail hot sauce?
Yeah, I mean, so I tell people if I were going to be marooned on a desert island with one cocktail book, it'd be the first edition Savoy cocktail book, 1930. Yeah, I mean, Harry Craddock, who was an American bartender, bartending in London when it was Prohibition back in the U.S. And if you go to London, go to the American bar in the Savoy. I mean, it's a posh hotel, and it was a posh bar with cocktails, which was definitely an American phenomenon, American trend. That was quite popular. And the Savoy, the first edition has over 100 cocktails that call for absinthe. And if you go back and look at C.F. Lawler's The Mixologist from 1895, he makes the quip that many people find that the flavor of a cocktail is improved with the addition of a small amount of absinthe. Basically, in many, many cocktails, absinthe was used a lot like cocktail hot sauce. Just gave it a kick. I mean, even tiki drinks. You know, it adds something to it. Small amounts, bar spoon. Lots of things like that. Lots of uses.
Zombie anybody?
Yeah, and it's interesting because absinthe was very, very popular in New Orleans, and when Prohibition was repealed, you couldn't have absinthe. It was illegal. So a gentleman by the name of Jean Legendre had the first rectification license. He was not a distiller. He had a rectification license, and he created something that could be used as a substitute for absinthe, and that's something that became Herbsaint. And he created that in 1934 because you didn't, I mean, if you You didn't have anything that could kind of get into the realm of that flavor profile. There was cocktails you just couldn't make. New Orleans-centric cocktails. Yes?
Is it true the legend where he just moved the letters around in Absinthe to create the name Absinthe?
Originally, he called it, I have an old photo, he called it Legendre Absinthe, and the feds slammed it and said, nope, you can't call it Legendre Absinthe. Number one, it's not absinthe. It doesn't contain any absinthe. Number two, absinthe's illegal anyway. So he changed it. And basically, French pronunciation, absinthe is like absinthe. It's kind of like absinthe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absinthe. Go ahead.
All right. Things I can say that Ted can't because I don't work for a brand.
I'll just go up.
Yeah, do that. So when we talk about gin, we list out gins on a menu. We talk about builds specifically. Do you want a floral gin? What sort are you going to balance this cocktail? We don't talk about that with absinthe, and I think we should be. Because there is a lot of variety out there. There are a lot of products that are relying on a lot of marketing dollars to sell you a product that has nothing to do with a traditional absinthe, but they are what is called for because they've spent the marketing dollars. So there are some things that I think as bartenders we should be paying attention to because it's going to affect if you're recreating classic cocktails. If you're using an imitation product that doesn't represent the traditional ingredient, you're not going to accurately recreate that cocktail anyway. Star anise is not a traditional absinthe ingredient. I think it's terrible in absinthe approximations as well. Kills my palate. I don't recommend going for brands that do use it. I find more issues with guests who are being introduced to absinthe for the first time, coming at it from the perspective of, oh, it's just black jelly beans, which that candy here in the US, especially the mass produce it, is a lot of star anise.
Yeah, let me just make it a point that virtually every sambuca pastis, every commercial pastis, anise flavored candy, anisette, that is all made from oil of star anise. Yeah, which is a commercial product. Right? It doesn't taste like green anise, pimpinella anise, and it's not the same thing.
They're different plants.
Very different.
Added sugar, as Ted mentioned earlier, traditional absinthe didn't have sugar in the bottle.
Never.
We think of that especially as pastis came to fill that role a little bit after and required sugar content. Awesome. That's not what the traditional absinthe is when you're looking at recreating cocktails. There are some today who will put sugar in the bottle. There are a couple of really great groups. Wormwood Society is rebuilding their website. That's a lot of enthusiasts who will go through and review different brands. I love looking at that resource. The absinthe subreddit is also really, really great. If you need resources on, I don't want to spend $90 on this bottle, but I'd like somebody's opinion on it, good place to go. Ted, you should take this one away.
See anything wrong here? If you go to a shop, let's say you're going to buy a bottle of Bordeaux, you're going to spend, I don't know, 70, 80 bucks, and you read the label and it says, contains FD&C red number 5. You buy it?
No.
Where does red wine get its color from? Grape skins. Color and flavor from grape skins. Absinthe gets its color and flavor from botanicals. What happens when you mix blue and yellow? You get green. These are 3 absinthes, right? So from
Crapsinthes.
yeah, crap scents, bad scents, yes. Fake scents, yes. And the funny thing is, FD&C yellow number 5, which is the same, which makes like Doritos yellow, right? Yep. That is a chemical called tartrazine, which comes from petroleum. Wholesome. Which, by the way, is about to be banned.
Yes.
Both FD&C yellow number 5 and blue number 1. So I don't know what these crap scents are going to do. They're going to have to reformulate. But when I see this, and then all this bogus marketing about, oh, an original recipe and this, no, bullshit, rubbish, fraud. No, it's not original. Nothing to do with that.
By the way, we had a lot of Doritos started.
So you got your FD&C yellow number 5. But yeah, this is something that, this has been a big problem for us, especially here in the US, there's some products that I see in a lot of places, these absinthes, and they're attractively priced, which is probably why people buy them. And all you gotta do is you read the label on the bottle. It says it right there. In the US, you have to disclose it, not everywhere, but here you have to. If you put fake color in it, yeah. Please.
Yeah. So again, these are approximations of traditional spirit that we do have in production today. There are 4 jade absinthes available in the US, a 5th not available in the US, maybe someday. Maybe. You have options to be able to avoid what I consider inferior product. Play with them. So let's talk about some absinthe cocktails, because how the hell do you use it? And when you're looking at something that is on a retail shelf, $100 to $125 a bottle, or the cost at the bar, $90 a bottle for the Jades, it's 80 in Iowa. You want to use it, right? You don't want it to sit on your back bar. You want to justify that bottle cost. A lot of our classic cocktails do call for a small amount, but absinthe frappe is absolutely delicious. Feel free to take photos of these slides. They're great to be able to make.
Absinthe frappe was actually the most popular absinthe cocktail in the US. And there was even a equivalent of a hit song from 1904 called Absinthe frappe. The lyrics are really hokey, I'm afraid, but yeah. And Corpse Survivor number 2 is, of course, the morning after cocktail.
That is the gin produced by Wood River.
Is it
You know.
It's named after the original stuff.
This is the most popular Sazerac I've made, and it is Ted's recipe. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, in the 19th century, like I said earlier, botanical bitters were the panacea of the 19th century. And I own original bottles of some of these popular bitters from back in the day. And they all say the same thing. You take a spoonful 3 times a day. I've got an original Peychaud's unopened full, big one. And if you look at and there's one Peychaud label that makes it clear. It says you take a spoonful 3 times a day. The thing is, it doesn't mean you take it like your mother giving you cough syrup. No. That means you take a spoonful, you put it in something, and you drink it. Okay? And of course, like in Peychaud's, it says take a spoonful in sherry, Madeira, or brandy. Right? Okay. So basically, whatever you're drinking, you put a spoonful of bitters. But if you put a spoonful of bitters in, let's say, some rum or whiskey, it just doesn't taste very good. So what makes the medicine go down?
Sugar.
Sazerac cocktail right there. So really, and I had this discussion with David Wonders, because it seems like Sazerac has very utilitarian origins. And of course, it was named from the Sazerac Coffee House, which is named after Sazerac du Forge at East Cognac. I have tasted the original, but it's been gone since about 1905. And cognac was a little different back then. And I've also tasted some rye whiskey distilled in Hannahsville, Pennsylvania in the 1880s. And one thing is that our perception today of what rye whiskey and cognac was 19th century is wrong. The funny thing is that actually, if you taste these spirits from the 19th century, and I've had pre-phylloxera cognacs and pre-chamber still rye, the thing about it is they're actually fairly close. And you would see that if you would not have cognac, like because of phylloxera possibly, that 19th century style rye whiskey would be an appropriate substitute.
Beautiful. Okay, 10-minute warning, so we're going to fly through some of the rest
Yep.
of this. So Lucid Mule, which you had, also the #1 way that I introduce guests to absinthe in my program. They freaking love it. It is crushable. It is also low ABV when you throw 8 ounces of ginger beer on top of it with 1 ounce of Lucid. Bloody Fairy, which I finally had not too terribly long ago for the first time. Super delicious.
I love Bloody Marys, would never use vodka. Would never use vodka. What you do is you take, if I'm gonna make a Bloody Mary, it's either gonna be with like mezcal, all right, or absinthe. Try Bloody Fairy, but the thing is, only 1 ounce. Just even that Lucid, 124 proof, that's got an ounce of that has slightly more alcohol than 1.5 ounces of vodka. But the thing is, my grandmother used to cook this Italian fennel sausage, the sausage that had fennel seeds in it. If you ever had that, how is it with a good marinara? Bloody Fairy, try it.
Very, very tasty.
If you like Bloody Mary, it's delicious.
Bitter Party of One, which was the USBG Cocktail Classique winner in 2019.
In my opinion, possibly the best absinthe cocktail ever.
Delicious. And yes, that is half ounce of
Angostura. That's what makes everybody say, what? How much?
What can you say,
It could be like Planetary Dark, something like that. It's Diplodoctico, nothing too crazy. Right. Basically, it's like the most amazing daiquiri.
Obituary is fantastic and aptly named, and I did work for you trying all of the different absinthe finishes with that. Give myself a mighty headache, worth it. My favorite is the Jade Nouveau Leon, and I do recommend if you can play with the different jades or put side by side different absinthes. It is wildly amazing how different they are, even in just that parcel amount.
What dry verbiage were you?
Tegra 10 is what I used for the obituary, and I used Dolan dry. Necromancer, also adorably fun. This is what my college kids have been drinking. They're obsessed with it. They might be also play Diablo with me. It's cool. So this is a great one side by side. When I brought my team through the program of like, okay, which absinthe are we going to use for this? My preferred is Lucid. I prefer how the cocktail balances that way. But when I introduce it to my bartenders and to some of my clientele who comes back and are very experimental with me, they're like, no, we prefer the Nouveau Leon. It's night and day different. They're wildly different cocktails. They balance so differently.
Do you price that differently? Because obviously there's a different.
I do price it differently for convenience. I put on the menu the preferred version, and then I can hand sell my version for those who are more into. I think the Lucid version is just a little more earthy. So.
Have you adjusted like your different specs for the different types of absinthe?
No, I just kept it and played with it from there.
You know how in pop culture there'll be like a reference to a cocktail and then all of a sudden everybody's like, this is like a question for the room. Has this popped up somewhere? Because I got 2 cold calls from this last week and my clientele is not industry.
So there was just about a month and a half ago a bartender in Omaha who created a cocktail necromancer that was nothing like this.
Oh, okay.
This is a relatively well documented recipe, but that video when I had seen it had like 30,000 views and 15,000. It was ridiculously popular. So I think people are playing with the word. But this is.
Or maybe pleasantly surprised.
I say this is the superior version of this named cocktail. Okay, all day frappe, which is what started my new obsession with absinthe, was tasting this delicious cocktail. Orgeat with absinthe is phenomenal. Perfect, 5 minutes, thank you. Wide-eyed, that's an espresso martini.
Yeah.
I learned that recipe from Martha Antonio Salas in Las Vegas. Everybody should get their fucking flowers. Please credit cocktails when you can. These are a couple of my cocktails that I have created because I want people to explore. I want them to try new things. These I haven't because it's a pain in the ass. I'm actually building out a website recipes for these now. Blood Like Lemonade is probably what I'm most proud of. That is a Damiano Vento strawberry reduction with grapefruit and the Nouveau Leon. Fairy Queen's Jewels is that all-day frappe from before with some glitter topped with cava and a little bit of Italicus. And Brunel for the bees is my riff on a classic, which would just be absinthe, lemon, and sugar. Instead of just sugar, I did a bee pollen and Italian fennel pollen infused honey syrup. And that's a teeny tiny cocktail. You're using half an ounce of absinthe in it, but it's gorgeous. It's batchable. It's very fun. Before we move on, I'm going to share something because I need some treats. I was kind of bummed that I wasn't going to get to be able to share all these cocktails with you.
While she does that, I
So
might.
I got you some. So at the end of this, I have the wide-eyed espresso martini and the Blood Like Lemonade. There's enough for everybody to get one.
One each, or you have to pick one.
Yeah, those. No, you can take one of each. You can take one of each. Yeah.
Can we just drink one of these?
Thanks. They are dilute. It'll say that these are also airplane friendly. They're 100 mils. They're tamper evident.
Nice.
Carry on. Don't check them.
Can I ask where you sourced the packaging? Just like an Amazon.
Amazon. It's not what I wanted to do, but it's what we did. It was a last minute thing. Yeah, Amazon, they will lie to you though, that said it was 3.5 ounces. I had way more batch left. So if you like the blood like lemonade, I have more of that in our room. Last cocktail I think I've got here for you, our Annie's Blush. This was, I had some folks come in and they're like, I really want to explore absinthe with you, but I want something fruity. Give me fruity. And I have a deep obsession with cheap black cherry rum. Love it, no shame. So I threw that with OFTD, some lemon juice, Esprit Edouard, and then a house-made grenadine. Some patience. The proof of the cocktail?
Yeah.
I didn't calculate that. I just watched people, make sure they're okay. Hydrate or hydrate?
Oh, yes.
All right, resources, the book Ted mentioned earlier, as well as some mixology documents that you can have access to.
Yeah, there's no hyphen in jade liqueurs, how did that happen? But anyway, if you go to drinklucid.com, one of the things you'll find a downloadable PDF. It's like 6 pages, a PDF absinthe mixology document that I cobbled together. It's got a compilation of a bunch of classics in it and some new ones, a few newer ones that you've seen here. So if you go to drinklucid.com, you can download it.
We have a couple minutes for questions.
So,
Ish.
which bottle has the devil gerbil in it?
It's a good band name. Okay.
I was just wondering if when y'all were, or Ted perhaps, when you were looking at vintage glassware for this, is there like an average capacity for absinthe glassware?
Well, a lot of the antique glassware, there's like right around like an ounce and a half mark. There's like a feature on the glass, like a line or something, that enabled bartenders just to pour like a shot pretty quickly into the glass. But I mean, an ounce and a half of absinthe is
Quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty potent. It's like I say, 1 ounce. I mean, even absinthe, heavy cocktails. I mean, it's
Yeah.
one.
And total volume varies. It varies.
Yeah.
You can find examples of very large glasses, which are redonkulous, and then more of the ones that you find are the bistro glasses, which are, I don't
Amount of
know.
water?
If they wanted to have a cocktail glass or like absinthe with water, it's not the person.
Oh, it's like a 5 to 6 ounce glass.
So I've been playing with the book Mr. Boston, Bartender Guide from 1935, right?
Yep.
I don't think it's like, I don't know, I have my reserves about those recipes, but I really like to play with those recipes that those bartenders have on hand. And a lot of the recipes call for absinthe. So what would you recommend, aside from, of course,
Hey,
that
Ted, do
one?
you want to tell us about Esprit Edouard in 1901 and how they're faithful reproductions of those absinthes?
Yeah, well, I can tell you this, just for out of historical. Well, here's what I can tell you. So you've had the one on the right, Jade Nouvelle Orleans, you've had Lucid. And these three, which are actually C.F. Berger, Esprit Edouard, Jade 1901, these are actual painstaking recreations of original products. And I can tell you that every classic cocktail that you find that calls for absinthe, these two in the center are the exact 2 products that they were created around.
For 1901, down to the stills from the same distillery that moved to.
Yeah, when that distillery was liquidated in 1922, I think it was, Combier bought 2 of the stills, so I used the original stills to make the original product.
what
I like
about
this
any,
sort of
like,
authenticity.
evil brand that is not there?
Oh, that's not mine? Well, here's the thing. So, like, one you might see around is, like, for example, St. George. I know Lance. So he was the first American absinthe after the ban, which I like what he did because it's like new Western American gin, which is not pretending to be like a London, like London gin. It's something different, which is great for the gin category. I mean, look what Hendrix did for gin. I mean, really, got people who weren't gin drinkers who drink gin. But the thing is, I like St. George. It's kind of grassy. Definitely has a different flavor. What's that?
It's got stinging nettle in it.
Yeah, it's got nettles in it, right? And he probably used that in the coloring step. But the thing is, that's one that's kind of expanded the category a bit. What's another one that I see around that is interesting? The thing is, there's some small ones. Le Clandestine, a Swiss brand, which is clear. You might see it's got a clear bottle with a bluish label. And the thing about today, when you see Swiss absinthes, a lot of them are clear. And that's not because absinthes were predominantly clear in Switzerland prior to the ban. No. That's because bootleggers after the ban up in the hills of Switzerland were making some bootleg product. They were just putting all the botanicals in the pot. So the end result will be clear, and it's not obvious what it is if the authorities came nosing around. And so since the ban, that became a dominant style in Switzerland, clear absinthe. Lower proof, about 54%. That's a nice product. Yes?
Is there a reason why some of the Swiss ones go with that lower proof as opposed to the higher?
54% seems to be their magic number in post-ban, and I don't know, there is a reason, there's some, I think it might have been a tax reason why that number became, it usually is, it's somehow when you can't figure out the answer to something, it's usually somehow connected to money. Jim?
Yeah, I did. When you were doing your chemical analysis of
Yes.
like these vintage bottles,
Right.
were you correcting for like any decomposition?
Yes,
or-
in fact, the second study that I co-authored in composition of vintage absinthe is a study on the oxidation potential of these compounds.
Yeah, because you mentioned like the
Yes.
original bottles had corks, like these bottles have been sitting.
And when compounds oxidize, they don't disappear, they just become something else. We
Yeah.
have to account for that.
Gotcha.
Yes?
Is there any kind of red absinthes that are kind of popular?
There was one product back in the day that was, I'm not even sure if it was a genuine absinthe or an absinthe substitute, because those did kind of pop up when absinthe was controversial in France. It was called La Roselle, I think. I think that's what it was. Anyway, it was colored with hibiscus. So there is precedence, but it's really small. It's a whole different ball game, and it's very polarizing. I'm not a fan, but some people really like it, which is a good thing. Yes, ma'am.
We often forget about Switzerland really being the home of absinthe.
Yes.
I'm wondering, is there a contemporary tradition now of absinthe in Switzerland? And what is it? What is it?
Yes, so absinthe was first commercialized in Switzerland in 1797, and Switzerland is officially the birthplace of absinthe. And if you go to the birthplace of absinthe called the Val de Travers, which is really a remote, this is a really remote part of Switzerland, right by the French border. In fact, if you're in France, you can like just drive into Switzerland and like there's like a border post with nobody there. And once when I flew out of Geneva and I was going through airport security, I was like, oh my gosh, like no one, like there's no record of me even being in this country. Like what will happen when I go to fly? But no, it all works out. But those people, the only thing is that political border is invisible. So those people right there in the French side and right there in the Swiss side and whatever, it's all commingled. So it's all pretty hazy.
But I guess I'm asking, is there any historic, still?
Yes, there's some absinthe museums out there, and it's a great place because there are very few tourists. And yeah, so it's like you're really, some absinthe museums, yes, and there's some really small producers, and it's quite romantic in a very pastoral sense.
Okay, absent friends. I never cut off a chat this good.
We're cut.
But I gotta. But he's not going anywhere. So I just want to thank you.